Hello. Okay, Napoleon, produced and directed by Ridley Scott. I'm a big fan of Ridley Scott, and here he brings us an epic that details the checkered rise and fall of French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte and his relentless journey to power through the prism of his addictive, volatile relationship with his wife, Josephine. So first of all, I want to just start off with saying that I'm not familiar with this part of history when it comes to Napoleon, so I'm not really going to delve into the inaccuracies of what it is they portray or tell within this film compared to what actually happened in history, because I wouldn't have a clue. So with that out of the way, let's talk about one of my major gripes with this film. And for me, when it comes to these films based on historic events or characters, authenticity is key for me to really buy into what it is they tell. And whether I know the facts about history or not, to actually kind of just be immersed and really buy into that, like, this actually happened. And one of the major gripes that I had with this film was there were no French actors and nobody spoke French throughout the entirety of this film. Like, there are a couple of moments, there are a couple of seconds somewhere where they do speak their native tongue, but that's literally seconds. Like, nobody is speaking in French within this film. And to me, that really already destroys the authenticity that I feel like this film needs. And look, I understand that this is an American Hollywood film retelling French history. And so, yeah, people are going to be speaking English. I understand that. We've had many great history biopics where they don't speak their native tongue within the film. I completely understand that. But sometimes I really just need a little bit more authenticity when it comes to telling these stories that just happen to be based on a different culture or in a different country. And I just feel like with this particular film, there is almost zero attempt really, at really kind of sort of doing that for me. Does it have a massive sway on how I felt overall about this film? No, not really, because a lot of that, a lot of it will be the technical aspect and just how the story is told and what they do with the story, which I will go into. And with that being said, Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon and Vanessa Kirby as Josephine, his lover and his wife, they are absolutely superb in this film. Like, I loved their performances and what they were doing with these characters, and it's the same for the rest of the cast. And so it's nothing against these actors, because they are absolutely brilliant within this film. But for me personally, with what it is, the story that they were telling, and the fact that it's actually French history, I kind of wanted something that would add to the authenticity. But that's nothing against these actors' performances within the film. But then there is something about the way in which these characters are portrayed, or how they are portrayed through the film. And there is this slight tint of humour throughout, which to me came across very unintentional. Like, it wasn't done on purpose. This sort of comedic undertone to the film did just come across very unintentional to me. There are moments that I kind of chuckle, but I'm like, was that supposed to be kind of funny? And just this sort of comedic undertone, it was like this vibe running throughout the film. And you never really quite know if this was sort of the direction they were going in or not. It's never really that clear. And I just think that, along with the portrayal of Napoleon through direction and Joaquin Phoenix's performance, which is great, and just the way he's portrayed in the promotional material for the film, it has that kind of new rock star kind of feel and vibe to it. And I don't know if that is what they were sort of going with, or attempting to go with this type of film, maybe. To sort of just really kind of highlight the fact that, yeah, we don't have any French actors in this film and whatever, but we sort of want to tell this part of history in a way that's kind of almost tongue-in-cheek even, maybe. I don't know if that's just me personally, but if that is what they were trying to do, they don't quite pull it off, and so just left me a little bit confused to how they wanted, or what they were attempting to do when it comes to telling this story. And another one of my gripes with this film was I never really got to truly understand or know the character of Napoleon Bonaparte. Joaquin Phoenix does a great job at portraying the character, but I feel like we just never really truly get to understand him and his sort of, like, we know what his desires are, like we just don't get a really deep character study of this man that I really wanted from this film. I feel like it's there somewhere. Like, this film, even though the narrative flowed quite nicely, I feel like we were missing a lot of moments with certain characters like Napoleon and his relationship with Josephine, and just sort of, yeah, I feel like there were parts of this film, character moments just missing, and I kind of felt it, but it just didn't take away from the immersion, because I was immersed with this film. I've got problems with it, but I was immersed from start to finish. Like, when it comes to a real deep dive into this character and what really makes him tick, and Napoleon's personality, I feel like we only ever really get hints of it throughout the film. And like I said, I feel like it's there somewhere. The thing that Ridley Scott is a master at doing, I feel, is when it comes to sort of breaking these big epic stories down and to a smaller runtime. And I think Ridley Scott is one of the best at really achieving that with his films. Like, yes, with this, I can kind of sense we've got a big chunks of character moments missing, but the film does run very smoothly, and I feel like, for me personally, I don't feel like this film was bloated in any way. It just it felt right. It kind of just worked. The narrative just sort of really flowed for me. But as a result of sort of the way in which it treats its characters through this film, I just ended up not really caring for anyone. And so I wasn't really impacted emotionally the way in which I felt like I should have been, or the film wanted me to be. Dariusz Wojcicki is the cinematographer on this film. He's collaborated with Ridley Scott on a lot of his most recent movies. And I'll be honest, I really wasn't a fan of how this film looked visually. I feel like it's quite dull, it's quite drab, and I feel like they failed to capture the rawness and the roughness and the grittiness that I felt this film really needed, especially during the battle scenes. Now, the battle scenes are epic, and they were impressive, and I did enjoy them. I liked how they were shot. But when it comes to the look, visually, and how it looked, I felt like they could have achieved so much more with them to really immerse you into those moments, no matter how impressive they were already and how they were kind of sort of laid out and how they were planned out and how they were filmed. That was brilliant, but just the look through the cinematography kind of point of view or perspective, I just feel like they really kind of failed to sort of capture the vibe and that sort of grittiness and roughness and rawness of those moments, like Ridley Scott achieved in his past films like Gladiator. You know, this is one scene, this battle scene, which is absolutely epic. It's brilliant. It's one of my favourite moments in the film, and it's actually shot in the same location as they shot the opening to Gladiator. But it just lacks that same kind of vibe and that immersion that I needed. And to help with that, for me personally, the cinematography does play a big part in it. And just you've got this kind of really sort of one-tone dullness to the film throughout. It's kind of like this grey, kind of drab, like you're constantly within a grey rain cloud. That's the only way I can describe it, and it just didn't work for me. But just going back to those battle scenes for a moment, they are epic, they are very impressive. You can see these people are on horses, they're in a field, and you can just feel like you're there. That, along with the sort of the sound design and the way these scenes are shot, really just helps add to the immersion, and they were thrilling. And I do feel like Ridley Scott has always said he uses CGI as a tool. It's there as a touch-up, and you can see that here. I feel like he does use CGI in a lot of these moments. I do feel like he's relied perhaps a bit too heavily on CGI in moments where perhaps he wouldn't have in the past, but it doesn't really take away from sort of just how epic these scenes are, and just it feels real. I just really dug the way in which he shot these battle scenes. They are impressive. So for me, Napoleon was a bit of a mixed bag. I didn't hate this film, and I was immersed right from the start to the end, and a lot of it's down to the performances from Vanessa, Kirby and Joaquin, as well as the rest of the cast are superb in this film. And Even though I acknowledge that I felt like there are parts of the narrative missing, the film still sort of flows very coherently and just flows very nicely. Like, there's this nice pace to it. It's long. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, I believe. But it works, but at the same time it doesn't work because I feel like we are missing moments of character for me to really sort of truly understand the character of Napoleon and sort of his motivations. I am one of those people that think that this film should have been longer. There are some that feel it should have been shorter, but for me, for this film to have truly have worked, I felt like it needed to be longer. And maybe their true intentions of what they were trying to do with this story might have been a little bit more evident or clear, because like I said, there is this comedic undertone to and then, you know, running through this story that kind of just ends up feeling unintentional, and just the way in which it is, they kind of try and portray the character of Napoleon through direction and sort of the advertising and just how Joaquin Phoenix brings the character to life. It's just very not clear. And just going back to the way the film looked visually, it just felt a little bit too polished. I just wanted it to be a little bit more gritty. There are times it feels like it was made for TV in parts or streaming. And it's unfortunate because I think I adore Ridley Scott as a director, as an artist, and he has got an eye for sort of shooting sort of iconic moments and scenes. But I feel like for me personally, this is one of Ridley Scott's weakest movies. But I somewhat still enjoyed it. I think that there are other aspects, there are other elements to this film, like the performances and those battle scenes and just how the narrative flowed. I do have gripes with it, but at the same time, it kind of just worked for me to sort of be entertained to some degree from start to finish. So yeah, a mixed bag from me. But I do recommend seeing this on the big screen. Don't wait until it goes onto Apple TV. Please go and see this on the big screen, because what they do and how they craft these big epic battle scenes, you have to see them on the big screen. That is what they made for, and I just feel like this is where the film really sort of excels, is in those moments. Unfortunately for me, it is more of the character and the sort of that character study of Napoleon I felt like should have been a bit more, as well as among other sort of gripes that I had with it. And it is the sound design that really brings those battle scenes to life. I really dug the sound design throughout this film. So yeah, you know, when it comes from the technical side of it to how they say, you know, how they tell this story, it's just a bit of a mixed bag for me. So yeah, enough rambling on from me. They are my thoughts on Ridley Scott's latest, and I will be giving Napoleon a 6 out of 10. So yeah, what did everyone else think? Let me know in the comments below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you agree or disagree with anything I've said about Napoleon? Then please let me know in the comments below and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see future reviews from just some random Welsh geek ramble on about film, then please hit that subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. I'm hoping to hit 200 subscribers by the end of the year. I'm currently sat at 196, so I'm very, very close. And a big thank you to all those that have subscribed over the year and most recently. It means an awful lot, and I hope you continue to watch me into the new year. Just ramble on about everything. Just ramble on about one of my passions in life, my very big passion in life, and that is film. So yeah, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.